what I want to do now is, unfortunately, we're going to have to listen to Nancy Grace, but there's a great segment that I want to play through. Chris McDonough is a cold case founder, director, and former homicide detective. He's going to talk about, is it a possibility that the suspect, Bryan Kohberger, allegedly might have studied a floor plan the evening that he went into the King Road, or before the evening that he went into the King Road residence. And then also we're going to move on after that, talk about with Kerry Ralston, the daughter of the BTK killer, Dennis Rader, and she's going to do some comparisons between her father and Bryan Kohberger. So really interesting stuff here. Let's pull one of these videos up and we'll go through it. God, we're going to have to sit through Nancy Grace. All right. I apologize. Did Kohberger. I can hear her voice now.
You know what? Does it ever end with Bryan Kohberger, the man charged in the murders of 4 beautiful, that's the only word I can really think of to describe the Idaho University students that were slaughtered in their own beds? Joining me, a real expert, Chris McDonough, director at the Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective, host of a YouTube channel, The Interview Room, and you can find him at coldcasefoundation.com.
By the way, I got to give a shout out to Nancy Grace. If you like her content, please go over and subscribe. And then also The Interview Room, Chris McDonough, go over and check out his channel. He's got a lot of stuff on there about Idaho and Bryan Kohberger. He actually has gone down to the area and done a lot of video in that area too, if you want to go down and check out, what the town looks like there. But let's get through this. I think it's a really interesting segment. This is going to take a majority of the meat of the show here tonight. And then we'll end the show off with Kerry Ralston, Dennis Rader, BTK killer's daughter, in talking about the similarities between Bryan Kohberger and BTK killer.
.org. I understand, Chris McDonough, that you have discussed
26
at
minutes.
length the specter that Bryan Kohberger actually studied the floor plan of the students' home, the off-campus home, where the 4 students were murdered. Is that right?
Right, Nancy. So I had a chance.
Wait. That was a yes, no, Chris McDonough.
Fucking guy hasn't even introduced himself yet. She cuts him off. Come on, Nancy. What the fuck?
Have you spoken with an FBI person?
Let the poor guy talk.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to throw one question at you to start with. Okay, Chris McDonough. I first found you on YouTube in The Interview Room because I was trolling for anything I could find out.
But this is a good segment, I'm telling you. I really want to hear Chris's perspective on this. He's got a great perspective. So unfortunately, we have to listen to fucking Nancy Grace.
The Idaho murders. This was before Kohberger was arrested. Before we even heard the name Kohberger. And you did for me what I later did for myself, but I couldn't get there in time. You beat me to it, to do a slow drive through the whole area. And you did it just the way I would want to do it myself, which I did later do, going at about literally 2 miles an hour. I'm sure you had a whole convoy behind you, Chris McDonough. You were driving along the main street and talking, describing what you were seeing, pointing the camera at it,
Jeez, man.
turning
Let the guy
left,
talk, right, Casey?
gas station,
Jeez.
going up into the neighborhood where the 4 students were murdered.
I got to say this, though. It's crazy. I heard several people have driven the route that allegedly Kohberger drove that night. And I think Nancy actually talks about it here because she actually drove the route too. And they said, when you get out, past, King Road and out into that open fields where his cell phone was pinging, allegedly, it's very dark out there. There's no street lights. There's no nothing. It's almost like no light pollution out there. And, to think, is that where, this murder weapon could be? Is this where the clothing could be that he wore? I mean, I would think by now they're probably still continuing to search that area. I think there's been some rumors that possibly there's I believe a lake or a river that's near there that this, this could have been discarded in. But yeah, it's a very desolate, not well lit area that he allegedly drove through for about 25 minutes.
Out everything we would want to see: a traffic light, a stop sign, a camera, a surveillance camera, just everything was.
That's the
wonderful.
$1 million
That's how I
question,
found Chris
Mike.
McDonough.
That's the $1
Now,
million
Chris
question.
McDonough, how long
And
were
I'm
you
going to tell
homicide?
you, like I said, you have the PCA, you have the search warrant, you have, some limited news articles that's been written. I'm telling you, when this goes to trial, they're going to find out what all of this connection is. As of right now, we know that he was following 3 of the girls on Instagram. His account now has been deleted, but that has been confirmed before his account was deleted. I think this dude's just like an incel. He just hates women. We do know that 2 of the girls worked at a vegan restaurant. Possibly he could have been there. He saw them, started following them or started following them Instagram, and just became angry at the fact that maybe he couldn't get, a woman like this. There's also been rumors out there that he's been to the house before, maybe at a party. There's the drug connection, the possible drug connection. So right now, that's the $1 million question, the $1 billion question. Like, what is the connection? But we'll play on.
Detective Chris?
13 years, Nancy.
Oh, man. Okay. Then you're going to get my next question. I've prosecuted a lot of crimes, literally thousands and thousands. Very rarely do you see a criminal use the old noodle, the noggin, the brain. And I'm thinking about Kohberger looking up the floor plan of the home on King Road before he went in and murdered everyone.
I mean, you got to think, though, too, Mike, when they get those cell phones and they subpoena all those cell phone, his cell phone, they go through his computer, you're going to see the forensic DNA of both those devices, and you know how we are with our phones. We're constantly on our phones. We're constantly on an app or sending a text or an email, videos, photographs. We haven't even had privilege to that information. Maybe there is a smoking gun on one of these devices, on his computer, maybe he searched, how to kill someone or whatever. I mean, that's going to be the smoking gun when we hear, possibly if we hear any of that type of information. So keep that in the back of your mind. We still haven't heard hardly anything in this case yet. And unfortunately, because of the gag order, we won't until this goes to trial.
Because normally criminals just barrel all up in there and let the chips fall where they may. They don't think it through. Believe me, I'm not congratulating him. I'm stunned, and it makes him even creepier. Not a technical legal term, but it makes him even creepier in my mind. Okay, now I've teed it up. Hit it, man.
Well,
the guy hasn't even talked yet.
Again, it goes back to how methodical
3 minutes
he potentially could be. So the belief is, and so I talked to a guy named Greg Cooper, who's a former BAU. He was the chief of the Behavior Science Unit. There is a belief that
Behavior Science Unit, BSU.
BAU, Behavior Analysis Unit.
Hold on. You throw some FBI jargon at me. Behavioral Analysis Unit. Now, most people don't know how to just and call up the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit. How did you, A, get their number, and B, get them to call back?
Yeah, so Greg and I go back many years, and what we talked about was, is it, with as much research as he was putting into pre-incident
$2 super chat from
events,
One Up.
i.e. surveillance,
stream. Keep up
around the
the good
community,
work.
around the house,
The
all the
opinionated
pings,
idiot.
the
Thank
12
you so
pings
much.
that come back to his phone.
Appreciate that. We'll give
Is it
one
possible
up a
that
bell
he was also
that.
taking a look on the internet in relationship to that particular target set, the
Oh,
1122?
okay. What did you
King?
just say? Remember, dummy down for me,
Right.
man. Regular people talk.
Okay.
Are you trying to say, did he look at a floor plan?
Yes. And what tools would he have used to do that was the thought, right?
Mhm.
So real quick, let me get to this chat. Casey says, I think this is not Brian's first obsession, just my opinion, but I think he's probably stalked others before and gotten away with it. I think he's well practiced in stalking women. She also says, whether that's physical, in person, or online, I think this is not new behavior for him. And O'Brien definitely agrees, and I agree as well. There's also some rumors out there that, maybe this is not his first allegedly his first murder. He might have some connections. You got to go back now and start looking. Look at the area that he lived in. Look in Pennsylvania. Is there similarities in any cases out there that we're seeing with Idaho? So those are things that you have to start thinking about and looking at as well.
So the belief is that Zillow.
I'm trying to take notes. Okay. I don't know shorthand. What tools hold on did he use? He used to do this. Hey, got a question for you. Aren't a lot of building plans filed somewhere? I've never had to look up. Oh, wait, I did have to look up a building plan once for a bank robbery. But as it turned out, my bank robber was dyslexic and he did a robbery note.
That's funny.
So I didn't need all that
That is kinda
background
funny,
to
actually.
get a jury conviction because we did the handwriting comparison and he twisted all his letters. Like instead of N-A-N-C-Y, he put N-A-C-N-Y or what? He twisted letters
Pretty good.
all the way through his handwriting comparison. So I never even had to use my, all the floor plans I got for the bank. But isn't there somewhere where all of that is filed, or are those just public buildings?
Yeah, most of that can be filed at usually the city engineering or planning departments.
Yeah.
Whenever contractors pull permits for building, they have to also submit blueprints, and those blueprints are typically kept on file by a municipality.
See, I'm going to make you.
But with the digital age here, the belief
moderator.
was that
So
he was
welcome
utilizing
to the moderating
realtor.com, those types of
moderator.
Okay, all right.
So much. You've been a big
let that
supporter
sink
of the
in.
stream.
So you're talking about like a Zillow or realtor.com floor plans, not like a blueprint architectural floor plan.
Give her a badge or a wrench. I forget what it is.
Interesting.
It's a wrench.
Okay, go ahead. I like what you're saying, but I just have to, if I'm going to write it all down, it takes me a minute. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. So because the belief is, obviously, he was very comfortable with the environment. Evidence of, he was able to navigate very carefully yet succinctly with inside of that residence. So the only available resource to him would have been those type of digital platforms to,
Isn't
kind
it
of
1122 King? Isn't that the address?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you looked it up to try to see the floor plan?
Yeah, it's already up there.
I have
done a video on it. If anybody wants to see that.
Where did you go to? A rental site?
Yes, I went to Zillow, and then early on it was on an apartment rental site for college students.
Casey nailed it.
Okay.
You kind of think that she'd probably do a little bit more research for her guests before he was on.
The interior of the house. And so the belief is that if he had that type of resource, would he have utilized it? And the thinking is, yes, in fact, based on the amount of study he put into that area as a whole.
If anybody's interested.
So I thought that was really fascinating.
I'm going to drop.
Not only was he.
I'm going to drop this link And if you want to take a look at it, this is actually pretty cool. It's got the complete interior. This link I just dropped has the complete interior of the house and basically does a virtual walkthrough of what happened that night. And if you actually go into the closet area, it has tons of case files and information in there. I've done a virtual walkthrough of that home. And I have a video here on my page if you guys want to dip into my videos and check it out. But if you want to just kind of quickly run through it, you can click that link, which is pretty cool.
Methodical, but this
Someone
was
did
a
an
potential
outstanding job putting that together.
piece of the puzzle for his thought process. And
another thing, you and I talked about how I kept referring to it as an almost cul-de-sac because it looks like someone is trying to make an O and then doesn't go all the way around to join it together. And the address is right there in the corner. Another thing that you first brought to my attention, which I learned later there in Moscow, you can see practically every
everywhere
room
Yep.
from the outside.
Yep.
I don't know that there's any room. Maybe there's a bathroom you can't see into, but you can see everything.
I did some walkthrough of a video as well. Someone actually went out there and did some recording actually at night around the same time and just kind of give you a look. I mean, there's lights on everywhere out there. I mean, there's street lights, there's apartment lights, there's people that have their lights on at all hours of the night.
Yeah, and what isn't that fascinating when I know you stood there and I stood there also in that back parking lot area, that you can visually see not only
right
into Maddie's room, you can see into Dylan's room, and this is where that I think I've always felt that cinder block underneath her window played a role in something, based on potentially a voyeurism, play here for him, and working out his, deviance in relationship.
Crazy, Casey, if you've ever looked up like their TikTok videos, it's pretty insane. I mean, it gives you like some really good insight as to, who all those people were. And I mean, they didn't know this was coming. I mean, it's sad. They had no clue. They were sitting ducks. They had no clue. But you can actually look up like TikTok videos and look at their Instagrams, and it's sad. These kids had no idea that this was coming. They had no clue. I mean, this was a huge, incredibly frightening experience. I mean, I wouldn't even, want to even put myself in that situation to even think about it, how frightening this is. But we'll play on here.
Fantasy levels. So yeah, those guys, those poor kids were like you had described in the past, Nancy. They were sitting in a fishbowl,
sitting ducks. That's it.
And it's really a tragedy that he had that
12 people right now. If you got
resource available to him.
If you just come in, I appreciate it. It gets the stream out in the algorithm.
The way that we
really
would find that
appreciate
out
it.
is through a thorough analysis of his laptop, his iPad, his phone.
See, and this is what I just talked about. Everybody's kind of freaking out. Oh, there's just this minimal amount of evidence. They haven't even done forensic analysis of, like I said, the phone, his computer, his laptop, all that. They're going to go through all of that,
including his work.
Yeah, everything.
Laptop or desktop that he may have there, to find out if he did that. And knowing him, he probably
13 people.
Did,
let's get those upvotes to 13. Magic number.
Now, why do you say that?
10 right now. I just need 3
more.
more.
I think we're going to be surprised.
Thanks, Casey.
With,
appreciate that. Just 3
why
more.
he wouldn't have done that, because he took so much time with every move that he made that evening, and then he picked the perfect time to execute the crime, and then he left, or or it fell out. We don't know yet.
If
Obviously,
you've
that
just first
evidence
time
of the
jumped over
sheet,
live on this
you know,
stream and you're
that
not
could have been
subscribed
either
to
an
the channel, please
oversight and
subscribe.
or
Hit the bell
left there,
notification so
you know,
every time I go
purposely
live,
to move the
you guys will know.
investigation.
I don't see
Go ahead.
that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't
Yep.
see that he left it there on purpose. I think that's crazy talk.
I don't.
Can I move on to something else now that you've given me something to stay up late at night worried about Bryan Kohberger going on Zillow and finding people's floor plans? Can we talk about Brittany Hislop, who is professing her undying love
psycho.
for Bryan Kohberger? And it leaves
That's another one that if you want to look up Brittany Hislop. Check out her Facebook account. I actually did a video on her and read through some of her Facebook posts, and she is I just say there's something going on there.
internet, quote, concerned about her child. Yeah. She reveals she is, her word, not mine, lovesick over Bryan Kohberger.
Yeah.
Did you hear that,
right.
Sydney and Jackie?
Yeah.
There's a woman who says, she did say based on their astrological signs.
Oh,
red flag of warning.
Yeah, right.
And because their star charts are very similar, that she thinks he's the perfect
Casey says she's
male
a few
counterpart
crayons
to her,
short of a
and
full
she
box.
has, quote, undying
Exactly.
love, even though she has never met or spoken to him. Help me understand this.
Well, I didn't understand it either, and I had to ask some forensic psychologists. And there is a dysphoria called hybristophilia.
Okay, you're going to have to spell that for me.
Okay, I have to do the same thing,
yeah.
Nancy. It's HYBRISTOPHILLA.
Oh, Bryan, I'm going to do
and what it is,
it's
a fantasy-based dysphoria with an attraction towards serial killers.
Oh, Bryan, got a wrench.
Criminals.
Just became a moderator.
A fantasy-based disorder.
Appreciate that.
Where you're attracted to serial killers and other criminals, or just serial killers?
Both. It has all. It covers all gamuts of.
Hybristophilia, is that the name of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
And so he's apparently getting all types of, contact, fan base type of connection here from this young lady.
Isn't that an odd irony that before he allegedly committed the murders, he was frustrated because he couldn't get the attention of a woman, including possibly one or more of the victims.
Yeah.
And now he's getting unsolicited love letters. Can I quote you something? Okay. Her words, not mine. I don't know if Bryan is or was single. Hello? Yes, he's single. I don't know if Bryan is or was single when he supposedly.
I'm going to say this started off pretty bad, but it's actually it's not that bad now. We've gotten through our kind of the
murders. But I wonder if he and I ever would have met.
Yeah, this is crazy. This
if he would have liked me. Yes, lady. He'd like you.
Yeah.
He likes any woman that would even notice him. Wait a minute. Well, I'm sorry. I'll read it straight. Quote, I don't know if Bryan is or was single when he supposedly committed the murders, but I wonder if he and I ever would have met, if he would have liked me, and if we could have connected well. And if we did,
it's the most run-on.
If he did, in fact, commit those murders, it doesn't mean he would have hurt me and been abusive, although I don't personally know him and his temperament. I just know that ideally my true love and perfect match wouldn't hurt me or do me like others have that were wrong towards me. Okay, again, help me, Chris.
Mike, you still here?
Why would this
Mike's
woman believe he's her perfect soulmate?
Mike is now a moderator.
Mike's Nancy, that is
a of the channel too. I'm gonna hook Mike up.
Even above my pay grade, to be honest with you, because you and I both know. I mean, here's a guy that's hanging around campus before the incidents, before the murders, and women are reporting him now that they're coming forward even more, which you and I talked about and predicted that we would start seeing, women coming forward saying, this guy was really odd. He would, he's staring at women to the point where they're following their gut instincts.
Yeah.
And they walked away and they left him. And then, of course, now they're reporting, hey, this is the guy that was, the creepy guy that I was, instinctively not feeling good about. And then the swing of that pendulum to the woman we're talking about here, I just don't understand it myself, to be honest.
I've got to give you another quote. We're never going to get to the other topics I had written down on the list. And that's all your fault, by the way, Chris McDonough. But let's blame Brittany Hislop for it. Okay, hold on. Her words.
Word
My
salad.
love
I kind of feel bad
named
for her.
Brian and is accused
I kind of
of
feel
murder.
a bit bad for her, but wow, where's her family, man?
There has
Someone
to be an
needs
alarm going
to
off
take
in your
her
head.
internet away.
There is something
for a
very,
whole
very wrong
minute.
with me.
Exactly.
My love interest is named Brian, and he's accused of murder. And I just wish to connect with him above anyone else. The 35-year-old Kentucky singleton, mother of a teen son, gushed in one of her many, many Facebook posts about Kohberger,
She's
whom
crazy.
she's never met. One way to describe my feelings for him over the last week or so is kind of like being lovesick. Okay, I agree with part of that, the sick part. She began posting publicly about her infatuation with Bryan Kohberger.
She said he was
just 5 days after he's arrested.
I get an article in a place in the chat.
Repeatedly points to her and Kohberger's astrological signs,
check
just
out
so you know.
The crazy
and
chick.
This will probably make a big difference.
Loves
They're both
Kohberger.
Scorpios. And their birth
From
charts,
Newsweek.
explaining why he could be her, quote, divine masculine counterpart.
Yeah.
She says she's not drawn to him just for his smarts and courtroom demeanor. He's creepy as H-E-double-L in court. Chris
exactly,
McDonough.
O'Brien.
I remember
Use small words,
interviewing
wellness check.
at least one of the women that married one of the Menendez brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she also had children, and she moved across the country to be closer to his prison facility.
Crazy.
I don't get it, Chris McDonough.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get worse, Nancy. I mean, these inmates now, even on death row, have access to digital, tablets, and so it's going to open those avenues of communication even further. I know for a fact that certain people get communication online while on death row.
You do know you still talk like a cop, right? Just saying.
Sorry,
it's neither good nor bad. I'm just telling you. I mean, I can.
Well, he was a former
smell
homicide
you
detective.
a mile away. Hey, got another thing for you before we continue down our path of hybristophilia. Do you believe recovery of the murder weapon is critical to prosecuting this case? Because I do not.
No.
Sure, I'd like to have the murder weapon.
Yeah.
But
we have the sheath and the
you can
DNA.
prosecute a murder case without a body, much less without the weapon.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with you 100%. I think the weapon would be an added bonus.
Yeah.
And it's more important to him than it is to prove the crime. I agree with you 100%.
Online, people are weighing in. You got to have the murder weapon, got to have the murder weapon. Don't. I'm guessing a lot of them have never tried or investigated a homicide case.
Right.
You don't always have the murder weapon.
No, she's right.
In fact, even remotely intelligent criminal will break down the gun and throw its bars in different places. Will get rid of the knife. Of course we want the murder weapon, but how badly do you think it's going to hurt the state if we never find that weapon, Chris McDonough?
I don't think it's going to hurt them due to the fact that you have the autopsy. And what I mean by that is that a knife was utilized. And if you can put him into that home, and it looks like the digital evidence is pointing to that DNA in the home,
Right.
then you got it. It's there.
What at this juncture do you believe is the single most powerful evidence for the state?
The sheath.
Well, of course, the DNA on the sheath, on the but I think the digital evidence is going to be significant as well.
And keep in mind, you know, I've said this too, you haven't even heard about his car. I mean, the FBI is going to tear that thing apart and swab it everywhere. And if there is a shred of DNA from any of the victims in that vehicle, if there's a hair from Kaylee's dog in that car, if there's a human hair from one of the victims, if there's skin cells from one of the victims, I mean, it's amazing the evidence in DNA that they can lift now. Any of those victims' personal, DNA is in that car. Open and shut case.
Forensic footprint.
The digital evidence, such as the 12 times his phone pinged near 1122 King, although they will say the defense is going to argue
we drove
that
back and
ping
forth.
bounced off a different cell tower, which is completely possible.
Right.
What else? They can explain away the DNA on the sheath by saying, yeah, I attended a knife and gun show and I touched a lot of knife sheaths. But what I find compelling is all of the evidence when you look at it in toto, in the totality, all together.
Stop this real quick. Casey says, do you imagine the frustration the FBI was watching him clean that car before they got the arrest warrant passed by the judge? They must have been absolutely mortified. Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, I'm still sure and I'm pretty confident that there's ways that they can find things out. I think I've even seen spots where people have tried to clean blood with bleach and they use that chemical luminol, and luminol will still illuminate some blood trace. So even if you try to cover it with bleach or cleaning solutions, they still can pull things with luminol.
Together. Yeah, you can explain away one
luminol
or two
detects
things,
the presence of blood,
if
anybody doesn't know what that is.
On the
Sorry, I have a
evidence,
cold. I had a cold the
for
last couple
instance,
days.
we
I'm very
believe that
nasally.
he may have been stalking one or more of the four
You guys
victims.
just hit that upvote button. Let's get 2 more upvotes. Let's bring it to 12.
Insta,
I'm at 10 right
trying
now.
to communicate with them
Real quick.
There's just so much. The fact that he's stalking the campus, we have him there in the student union and other places just staring at people.
Let's get,
so he's not at his campus,
watching.
Washington State University. He's at their campus. And that student union building, the co-op, is not far at all from 1122 King, where the four victims were
Twitch
murdered.
That's watching as well.
So we've got him all around their sphere.
Yeah, I'm feeling
and then the DNA
better.
for me is
Getting
the icing
there.
on the cake.
I
think we're going to have a lot more, though, Chris McDonough. Do you?
It's just been frustrating.
Absolutely. There are tools that haven't been discussed. We just heard about them real subtly on the trial going on.
Appreciate it, O'Brien. Appreciate that.
One of them is a tool called Gladiator.
Yeah.
If you look and those kind of tools, for obvious reasons, the public isn't aware of their total capabilities, but those are the type of tools that will put Bryan Kohberger closer to the event.
And do you want to explain how Gladiator works?
Well,
this is interesting. I have not heard about this, so this is kind of some breaking news for me right now. This Gladiator that they're going to talk about.
Let me just say this: it narrows the scope of those tower pings.
How?
I love you, Nancy. I can't go there right now until the experts testify on that stuff. But I can just tell you this: I've seen it work to the point where a tower ping has been narrowed down to within feet.
Exactly.
That's what I was talking about. If you guys didn't catch the beginning of the stream, that I talked about in the Alec Murdaugh trial right now, I was watching some testimony today, and they were doing specifically that with his GPS. They literally were pinging him and tracing his footsteps down to to feet, in coordinates in time by seconds where he was. So, I mean, you're going to see a lot of this in trial. And that's why I said, everybody, oh, there's no evidence, he's going to walk, he's innocent. I'm telling you, there is so much evidence that we haven't seen or heard of yet.
Narrow down to within a block.
Yeah.
Feet. That's pretty amazing. So they're not going to be able to use the defense. Oh, yeah, I was on my cell at that time, but nowhere near the murder scene. And this could be pinging off a tower 2 miles from here. But with gladiator ability, you can narrow that ping down, I know, to a block.
Right.
And you're saying even to feet. Guys, I'm just wondering how he is being treated, as I call it, Camp Flower at the county jail, where they sometimes wake the inmates up with soft music and they have pizza night on Friday night. They order out pizza.
What?
Never heard anything like it in my life. But hey, I wonder if they have him in isolation. I believe I've heard he's in solitary.
Yeah, so Casey said, I heard your phone performs like a digital handshake with Bluetooth devices and Wi-Fi without actually connecting completely. Massively narrows everything down, I reckon. Yeah, I actually did a video about this as well on my channel. You can go back and watch it. And it basically talks about, iPhones, Android phones are constantly sending signals out to areas in and around your house to Bluetooth devices. It's funny, like I'll go out to my car and sometimes I have to connect my Bluetooth into my car and it will pick up you guys have probably done that. It picks up all the signals or the Wi-Fi information that's in that area that's available. That's basically sending a ping out to that Wi-Fi device or that Bluetooth device. So it's trying to connect. It's saying, hey, let me in. Nope, let me in. Nope, that type of relationship with those devices. There's been some rumor out there that I believe in Maddie's room that she had a Bluetooth speaker. So if they can use any type of that information, I mean, if Kohberger isn't around that house or inside that house and his phone tried to connect to that device, and they can forensically go through that and find out if there's a connection there, again, it's huge evidence for the prosecution. That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Casey.
Isn't that right, Sid? Didn't we? Yeah. Why do you think they've got him in solitary?
Well, I think they're concerned about his ability to communicate to the outside, as well as what's his threat risk internally to the jail.
You mean will somebody try to kill him?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, darn. Okay. That said, is that normal for them to be put in solitary? No, I want him to go.
Yeah, so we had his phone off for a certain amount of time, but that still doesn't mean anything as far as I'm telling you. I think just what this gentleman was talking about, and I forget the name of the device or what program they're using. Even though your phone is off, it still possibly could send a signal to try to connect to certain devices. So even just with that lost time, the 40 minutes or whatever it was that was off, it still doesn't matter, because if they just even show that his phone, previous to that was connecting to some devices or whatever, it's still really good circumstantial evidence in this case.
On trial, in a fair trial that's not going to be reversed, because he needs to have justice delivered to him in a court of law. So you believe it's in solitary for his own safety?
Yeah, I think they put him in there just to keep him away from general population for his own safety, and then give him some time to think and process So I believe that that's a wise move currently.
Well, thanks to you, Chris McDonough. I will never look at Zillow the same way again. Thank you for ruining that for me. Chris McDonough.
You're welcome.
We'll meet again. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
All right. So that painfully was the Nancy Grace segment, but I thought we got a lot of great information out of Chris McDonough over on the Interview Room YouTube channel.